Hi, my name is Stefan Gonick. I'm an EFT practitioner, soulmate attraction mentor, and founder of the Soulmate Attraction Academy from single to soulmate.me. Welcome to Love Talk Q&A, the place to be to get your questions answered about finding and keeping the love of your life. In this episode of the Love Talk Q&A show, I'm going to be sharing with you the 5 best questions and conversation starters for a first date. Now, first of all, before we get started, yay, you're going on a first date. That's so exciting and a little nerve-wracking. And of course, you want to impress your date with scintillating and captivating conversation. And you also want to be able to, facilitate getting to know each other and connecting and starting to form a bond if this person is a really cool person, right? The problem is that we all tend to be a little anxious on a first date. So it makes it hard to think clearly, it makes it hard to be totally present. And sometimes our minds just go completely blank. And so it can be very helpful to come prepared with some questions you can pull out when you need them. You want to try and get the conversation flowing. And I also want to share, before I mention the 5 questions, that sometimes we have this sort of unrealistic expectation that conversations just flow naturally. In fact, that should be a sign as to whether or not you guys are compatible or good for each other, is that, the conversation will just flow. But like I said, if we're nervous and our mind goes blank, sometimes the very fact that this is a really exciting person makes it hard for the conversation to flow because it makes us that much more anxious. So I would really encourage you to let go of this idea that the conversation should flow naturally, and it's a sign that there's something wrong if it doesn't. So what kind of questions can we ask our date to, like I said, to get to know each other, to start forming a connection with each other, and start even forming a bond? So first of all, we want to ask questions that are very open-ended, that are pleasurable to answer. They make us feel good. The actual act of answering the question makes us feel good. So we're sharing a pleasurable connection by discussing these particular kind of questions, as compared to the usual kind of situation where we start to grill each other. It feels like an interview. It's like, okay, well, what's your feeling about kids, and what do you do for a living, and stuff like that. We don't want to do stuff that feels like an interview. We don't want to be dry or mechanical. Instead, like I said, we want to ask questions that are uplifting and make you feel good talking about. So, question number 1. What is one of the most fun things that you've ever done? Okay, so this question is really cool because, as you can tell, as soon as you think about one of the most fun things you've ever done, you feel good, right? It's like, ooh, yeah, what was one of the most fun things I ever did? Just even thinking about the question puts you in this good state, right? So as you think about it and you start going back and you go, oh, well. Now, I always say, listen to how I worded that. I said, what is one of the most fun things you've ever done? You don't want to say what was the most fun thing you've ever done, or in any of these questions, because then the person feels pressure to come up with the best thing. What was the best one, right? So I always word my questions as, what is one of the best whatever? You'll see that I have a number of questions that are along those lines. And that way it's not as much pressure. So the person's thinking about, what was really fun, puts them in a good place, a good mental state, a good emotional state. And you get to learn something really interesting about that person. Like, what was the really super fun thing that they did, or what was the thing they did that they thought was one of the most fun things they ever did, right? So it's a good way to get to know the person and to feel good and to share something really pleasurable. So that's question number 1. Now, be prepared. Every question you ask, they're generally going to turn it back onto you too. After they answer the question, they'll say, and so how about you? What was one of the most fun things you ever did, right? So you might want to think about these questions in advance for yourselves too, so you're prepared to answer them back. So question number 2. Now, this one is a little bit more interesting. So the first one is just pure fun, right? This one, I think, is really revealing in a really cool way. And this question is, what is one of the best things that a man or woman has ever done for you? So it depends on who you're dating, right? So if you're straight or gay. So whatever it is. So if you're like a woman and going on a date with a man, you would say, what was one of the best things a woman ever did for you? Or if you're a man on a date with a woman, what's one of the best things that a man ever did for you? And if you're same gender, it'd be that gender. So this one is fascinating. I first encountered this question speed dating, and it was this really enjoyable sort of like sociological study in a way. Because if you go to speed dating, I recommend speed dating. I think it's a cool way to get to meet a whole bunch of people fast. But lots of times, the majority of people you sit with, you're not interested in. You know that up front, and it's still a great question to ask. What is one of the best things that a man or woman has ever done for you? Is such an interesting question because say it's a woman, what man is she going to pick? Is she going to pick her father, a past boyfriend or husband, brother, a male friend, or what? And what was this best thing that they did? First of all, again, best thing. So the person's going to feel good thinking about it. So we always want to ask questions that helps the person feel good and to connect with you around something good. But it's also so enlightening. So it's so interesting to find out what this is. It really helps you get to know the person. So that's a great question to ask. Now, here's another really cool question. Question number 3 is, what are your favorite kinds of vacations to go on? What are your favorite kinds of vacations to go on? So it's better to ask it in the sort of future sense rather than the past sense. You could say, what was one of your favorite vacations you ever went on in the past? That could be good too. You don't want to talk about, what was the last vacation you went on, because you don't know how good that one was, right? And you don't know how, and you don't want to say recently or whatever. So I like it better in more general terms, because it could be that the person has never gone on their favorite kind of vacation, but they certainly know what it would be, right? So they may have this sort of goal that, I would love to do such and such. But there's something about talking about favorite kinds of vacations that, in addition to being pleasurable, which, remember, we're always looking to get into this really nice feeling, emotional state with each other. It's also, helps you get to know the person, like what kinds of things do they think would be a favorite kind of vacation, right? So that can be really interesting. But there seems to be something about discussing favorite vacations that kind of in the back of your mind makes you think that someday you might go on one of these together, right? Now, I would not encourage you to ever say, as part of discussing that topic, they say, hey, maybe we could do that someday, right? Because that's like jumping the gun. This is the first date, right? So you don't want to be talking about going on a vacation together in the future, because that's too soon. But the cool thing is just the act of talking about what are your favorite kinds of vacations to go on plants the seed. And it again helps facilitate connection, facilitate bonding with your date. And both people are kind of thinking, maybe someday we can go on one of these favorite kinds of vacations together. So again, it kind of helps move the relationship forward a bit. So that'd be question number 3. So now question number 4, this is again a really cool feel-good question that is also a great question to help get to know the other person, is you say, do you have any personal passion projects going on? So question number 4, do you have any personal passion projects that you're doing? Okay. Now this personal passion project could be anything, right? It could be something at work or work related. It could be a hobby. It could be, who knows what it is. But again, they're going to feel good answering the question. You're going to get to know the person, and it's going to be this very bonding kind of experience. And likely they'll turn the question back to you too, and then you get to also share a personal passion project, right? So, like I said, so it can be like work-related hobby, or not necessarily a hobby, but just this thing that you're involved in doing that feels really good. So that's question number 4. Question number 5. Question number 5 is similar to what was one of the most fun things you ever done. Is what is one of the best things that's ever happened to you? One of the best things that's ever happened to you. Now this one's a little tricky. Again, you can feel good answering the question, you can help get to know the person. There's one little tricky thing with this one though, and that is anybody who's had a child will almost always answer that. One of the best things that ever happened to me was having my child or children. And yes, of course, that is one of the best things that ever happened to them, but it's not going to help you get to know them better and to bond with them in the way you would like to, and sharing this mutual pleasure. Even if you also had children, you would agree. So when somebody answers that way, what I would say is like, yes, yeah, having children is one of the best things that life has to offer. But I would then just say the question again. And in addition to having a child or children, what else was one of the best things that ever happened to you? Because that next answer is the one that's going to help you get to know them better. The first answer will, get to help you know that they have a child, right? And you might even say, oh, wow, you have children. That's great. How old are your children? So that can start a whole new conversation. But, you want them to answer that question at least one more time that's not about their children. Because then you can get to know them as a person better. So now the other thing I would say, so these are the 5 questions, right? And if you ask these 5 questions, they're great because they tend to start conversations, right? It's not just that you're going to ask the question, they're going to answer it. It tends to really help facilitate the flow of the conversation and connection because you'll have all these sort of natural follow-on questions. The one thing I wouldn't do is try and just ask them all in a row because then it feels stilted, right? You want to just kind of bring them out like when there's a lull in the conversation. It's like, oh, you've been doing stuff and you're just kind of a quiet moment and then you go, maybe I can ask one of those questions, get the conversation going again. So I would tend to do it that way rather than just sort of, like an interview. So what's this? And now this question, now that one. Now, this is 5 questions that will really help facilitate you connecting with your date. But it turns out that I have actually 13 questions that are also, the additional questions, 13 total, starting with these 5. And I invite you to check them out on my website. You can sign up and get the total package of 13 questions that are great first date questions and conversation starters, similar to these 5, by going to my website at singletosoulmate.me/first date. So singletosoulmate.me/first date, and you can get all 13 first date questions and conversation starters there. Now, if you have any thoughts about these questions, or if you have your own favorite questions, it'd be really cool to have them in the comments below this video. If you like this video, it would also be really cool if you click on the like button to help me know that you liked it. That would be wonderful. You're also very welcome to subscribe to my channel and get more Love Talk Q&A questions down the road. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Love Talk Q&A. Did you like this video? If so, click on the like button below, subscribe to this channel, and spread the love to your friends. And if you have questions about your love life, please submit them in the comments below, and your question just might appear in an upcoming episode of Love Talk Q&A. Also, if you would like to understand the 3 key blocks to finding love and how to attract your soulmate now, sign up for the free Finding the Love You Want mini course. Well, thank you for hanging out with me, and remember, no matter how long you've been trying, you really can have the life and love you long for. This is Stefan Gonick, International Love Coach from FindingTheLoveYouWant.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Love Talk Q&A.